Major phone carriers make you sign contracts with rigid data plans to trap you into a kind of forced phonogamy. Sounds pretty insecure if you ask me. At Consumer Cellular, we believe in a more consensual and healthy form of phonogamy, free of contracts and more flexible to your data needs. This way, you stick around not because we force you to with contracts and fees, but because you love our phone plans. Like ardently love our phone plans. Phonogamously. Consumer Cellular. When freedom calls, we're here to answer. Call us at 1-888-FREEDOM.
Hello and welcome to The Price of Football, the show that looks at the money behind the beautiful game and thinks that whatever referee Kevin Friend is being paid, it's too much. Wait. I'm Kevin Day and he is Liverpool University's Kieran Maguire. Kieran, seriously, I've said this before and I'll say it again. We don't like to criticise referees on this show. The one on Saturday was bad enough. He looked like he was on some sort of Ant and Dec, make a dream come true. But he was new, first game, so you make allowances. But seriously, Kevin Friend, never mind VAR, there should be a panel of football fans, no, Palace fans. Every decision Kevin Friend makes in any game, there should be 3 Palace fans reviewing it. And just to save time, they can say it's wrong. Yes. Seriously. Anyway, apart from that, Kieran, how are you? You all right?
I'm very good. Because the Baroness has got me a Colin the Caterpillar advent calendar. So I'm like I'm just a big kid.
She knows how to press your buttons, doesn't she?
She does.
I just point out we had a Zoom meeting with producer Guy yesterday about something we'll tell you about later, and he said, "Can we stop mentioning Wonky Chomp so much because they're getting free publicity?" And now we've gone straight in with Colin the Caterpillar. I'm going to get my advent calendar today. Actually, I might even cheer myself up by putting the decorations up, which is I might do that. And you're off to West Ham today, aren't we? Because we're recording after Palace were robbed last night and before Brighton have an inevitable 0-0 draw with West Ham.
Yes, yeah. Looking forward to it. I much prefer going to Upton Park, proper ground and proper places to eat and drink around it as well. There's nowhere decent at the London Stadium. But it's a magnificent piece of architecture. It's just not a football stadium.
Yeah, there are a couple of places away from Stratford that are quite nice, and the walk by the canals is quite nice. But that away end, it's just the way it sort of kinks round. There's a sort of slight dogleg, so the away bit is further away from the pitch even than the rest of the fans are. But yeah, never mind. Let's perhaps we should start the pod, Kieran. We're 2 minutes 10 seconds in, and we haven't mentioned football finance, except the amount of money Kevin Friend is overpaid. So it's Newsday, Kieran. We've got quite a few news stories, including one of the bizarrest we've had for a long time coming up, which involves Bayern Munich, but involves Saint Etienne, I beg your pardon. I'm looking forward to that one. But in the meantime, I don't know how we know this, but the Premier League and the EFL are in secret talks to remove parachute payments. So I would suggest, Kieran, that those talks aren't as secret as the Premier League and the EFL think they may be.
Yeah, well, this was a story in The Guardian, and it struck me as a bit odd at the time because I thought that everybody knew that talks were taking place because they had been encouraged to have a word with each other. But this is broadly linked to the proposals of the fan-led review. And the independent regulator. Now, my view is that when it comes to disputes, the independent regulator wants to take a similar position to that of the Bank of England and to be a regulator of last resort, i.e. sort it out amongst yourselves. If you can't sort it, we will come in and we will effectively adjudicate, we will give guidance, but we would rather that both parties come to some form of agreement. The EFL seem to want to have parachute payments abolished, which seems very strange for 2 reasons. A, clubs that have just been relegated to the EFL are in danger of going bust. And B, the EFL have parachute payments themselves, which if you get relegated to the National League, you get 2 years worth of parachute payments. And that was voted for by EFL club owners. And my view is that they are a requirement if you've got big gaps between divisions, which we have. So they are a clumsy solution to a much broader problem. So the EFL was initially opposed and was in the, should we say, the sneery camp towards the regulator, but did a U-turn shortly before it was published. And in terms of the overall issue in respect to parachute payments, here's a problem. The average wage in the Championship in 2010, based on my calculations, £6,400 a week. The average wage in the Championship by the time we got to 2019, £16,300 a week. Wow. And the EFL clubs are saying, well, we are in financial distress. Absolutely, fully understand that, agree with that totally. And therefore, we want you to give us money. Now, asking somebody to give you money when you are paying players an average of 16 grand a week doesn't look too great. And therefore, you could say, well, hold on, why do we not have wage caps in the Championship? It's because club owners voted to not have wage caps in the Championship. So it's not an easy issue to come to a sensible solution with. But what we are getting is a bit of sort of sound bites coming from people on both sides of the divide, and having secret talks or whatever form of talks and getting to some form of solution. Because my personal view is parachute payments are for too long and they are too high. But having them per se is not actually a huge problem if they achieve their original objective, which is to prevent clubs being relegated from the Premier League going bust. And to date, that's actually achieved that objective.
So are the EFL not proposing some other form of compensation? And the second question is, what would happen to the money? Because surely that just makes the Premier League richer then, doesn't it, if parachute payments aren't being made?
Well, the aim of the EFL is that they want 25% of the combined TV deal of the Premier League and the EFL. So the two things are linked. And when we come to a story a bit later, we will see what is the response from clubs, some of whom have only just got to the Premier League after a long absence to that particular proposal.
Well, that neatly combines two things, because Leeds have just got to the Premier League after a long absence, and you also mentioned Tracy Crouch fan-led review, and Leeds United suggesting that parts of that fan-led review were Maoist in their approach, which is a bit of a surprise. Yeah,
that was pretty crass in my view. Carlton Cole was criticised at the weekend for making reference to the Holocaust and football, and he said, I accept that, and he apologised, and that's fine. To say that this is Maoist, where the Maoist regime under the Great Leap Forward did cause resulted in the death of many millions of people. So to try to link that to a football fan-led review recommendation does seem particularly crass from Angus Kinnear, the Leeds United chief exec. But we are now seeing a lot of owners using a variety of vehicles to take a pop at this particular proposal. We've seen it from Christian Purslow. We've seen it from Steve Parish was likening it to North Korea. Yeah. We've seen Karen Brady saying it's anti-competitive. It's not. And also that they've been saying, the Super League, that disappeared straight away. It didn't disappear due to self-regulation. It didn't disappear due to chief executives of football clubs being opposed to it. It disappeared because the fans of all the clubs in this country came together and said, this is our sport. We are stakeholders in football. You are trying to steal. And we know, you and I know, Kevin, the chances of Brighton or Palace getting to the Champions League are close to zero. But there still is a chance. And that's why even the fans of Chelsea and Liverpool and Manchester United, who would have benefited from guaranteed participation in this competition, came together because they still believe in the romance of football, whereas the likes of Kinnear and so on, who are now claiming that it was all down to them, are just talking balderdash. So, he's made these comments. I did my calculations. And Leeds United, he's saying the private sector is absolutely fantastic. Leeds United have lost £290 million this century. That's not a testament to a well-run business. Leeds United have been in administration twice due to mismanagement. So perhaps having some form of regulator. I work in the education industry. We are subject to regulation. I've also worked in the finance industry. The finance industry is subject to regulation. If you look at the NFL, which is a very successful sports business, that has a general manager, that has a commissioner, that has a form of regulation as well. So to say that regulation shouldn't be taking place, I think is very, very harsh. He then likens it to Ofwat and Ofcom. Regulators aren't perfect. And in fact, if they are weak and then they're worse than nothing. But there's no reason why this cannot be a success. And the sneery comments about how would a civil servant know about how to run the football industry, but we don't know whether the person in charge is going to be a civil servant. So stick that in your pipe, Angus.
I wasn't expecting that to be your closing remark. It was like being at the Oxford Debating Society until that bit. Three things off the back of that, Kieran. And you did very well, because I just threw that in because I saw that as I was literally making my cup of tea to come out. Close to zero, I would take those odds. They're quite good odds. I always thought that theatre should be subject to a regulator, and of course they'd have to call it offstage. And also the whole thing, these comments, the Maoist comments, people always say to me, why are you so keen on people learning history? It's so people have enough educational context not to make comments about like that. Not to make comments about the Holocaust and about Chairman Mao. It just really annoys me when people don't have a basic grasp of world history. BAFTA have definitely drifted off now, haven't they? We didn't win. By the way, those of you who aren't aware, we haven't mentioned it yet because we didn't win. I wouldn't say we're sulking, but
the plucky underdogs from the Athletic with their 1.2 million subscribers, £160 million worth of external funding, somehow beat us, as did Gary Neville. I don't know. I've never heard of him.
It's strange, isn't it? Yeah, in an award that's given based on number of votes. I know, but to be fair, the Baroness did win the Drinking Most White Wine award.
She did.
So she held her end up very well there. Speaking of the Premier League, now there's been growing unease, Kieran, you sense, about cryptocurrencies generally. And the Premier League is now pledged to investigate the links between clubs and cryptocurrency companies. What are they worried about?
They are worried about a number of issues. First of all, cryptocurrencies are unregulated. The irony here is the ironyometer is now into the red. Cryptocurrencies as an alternative payment mechanism to using banks, because I do some work overseas, and the clients, when they try to pay, the amounts that you get charged by banks for transferring money from one country to another are quite ludicrous. So the banks are screwing people over. So cryptocurrencies, in theory, could be a far cheaper, a far more efficient, a far quicker system to transfer money internationally. So that actually has some merit. The problem with cryptocurrencies is that they are being marketed as an investment product. And if you've got an investment product, you can make a lot of money and you can lose a lot of money as well. And also when you combine these with the NFTs, which again, if people want to collect online virtual playing cards of footballers, great, fantastic. It's a new form of Panini, and if you want to do it, great. But again,
this is non-fungible
tokens. That's right.
Yes.
But again, they are being marketed as investment products. You can make a lot of money. The only way you can make a lot of money is if a lot of other people lose a lot of money, and we saw that with Football Index. So that's why the Premier League is now, it seems to be taking a step back and saying, hold on, we are being used as a marketing tool for some of these products, and if it all goes wrong, then we're going to look very silly. And we've covered the issues in respect of Manchester City and Barcelona recently. Fan groups are concerned, again, linked to marketing. Cryptocurrencies it's betting with a small b, and is it a gateway to more other forms of gambling? I'm not so sure about that, but the blur in lines, because you and I, we could go and become currency dealers, Kevin. There's nothing to stop us, or going into oil trading. There's absolutely nothing to stop us doing that, but we wouldn't do that because we both consider ourselves to be idiots in terms of things like that. We don't have enough knowledge, and therefore we steer clear. Well, exactly the same should be the case in respect to cryptocurrencies. You don't know enough what's going on, and they are markets which are very, very easy to manipulate as well, because large tranches of those currencies are held in the hands of very few people who can therefore move the markets up and down at their will.
Also, for one of us, a lack of capital with which to invest is a problem, Kieran. It's funny as well, isn't it, that I remember the word fungible in non-fungible tokens, but forgot tokens.
Yes.
Fungible seems to have stuck for some reason. Rochdale fans have had a few concerning months, basically, but it seems, hopefully, fingers crossed, touch wood, that they appear to have seen off a hostile takeover of the club.
Yes, I think this is fantastic news, and I think we've been covering the story, and we've had people from Rochdale on the show. They put out effectively a press release a few days ago, and some of the Rochdale fans have been in contact. And the potential takeover by Morton House, I think, is now. It's as dead as a Norwegian blue, and that is excellent news as far as the club are concerned. I think the club's very proud of its history and heritage, in terms of the fact that it has never had a single owner. And it's issued a large number of shares to fans. That's constantly diluted the influence of Morton House. And they in this press release, they thanked a lot of people. We're kind enough to mention the podcast as well. We're not part of the organisation. We're just there to try to give publicity, to give a vehicle, to give a voice to fans who are concerned about what's happening at their club. But great, and for every Rochdale fan who found a few quid to buy those shares, hat doffed in your direction, because you're not going to get rich on the back of this. This isn't like cryptocurrencies where somebody's going to try to persuade you the value is going to go up or down. You are doing it because you love your club, and you're putting a few quid in to take the power and influence of those people whose intentions are. They're not the intentions of the average person of Rochdale when it came to that club. So huge respect to them.
Also gives hope to fans of clubs like Oldham who are going through similar worries. It's lovely that they thanked us in the press release. But we spoke to Rochdale fans, Swindon, Wigan, Oldham. We will publicise any club, and in fact, the attempts by any fans to save their club, to influence their club for the better. So if you're worried at your club at whatever level, let us know, and we'll do whatever we can to publicise it and to help you and point you in the direction of people who can help you financially as well. This next news story, Kieran, for older football fans, they will be baffled that it's actually a news story. And Brentford are going to wear their current home kit for a second season. Imagine that, Kieran. I mean, Palace, it's a bit of a myth that clubs wore the same kit for decades long. Clubs are always tweaking to an extent. Palace changed their kits most weeks with Malcolm Allison. But Brentford, it's amazing. My dad, God love him, God rest him, his favourite Palace man is Malcolm Allison. He's like, Daddy got us relegated twice. He said, I know, but he was in a bath with that page 3 girl. Think of the publicity. Dad, relegated twice. But he was right, though. We never had more attention than when Malcolm Allison was manager. But Burnley have cited two reasons. The economic Is that Finlay going in or coming out?
He's just coming in with a wonky jump. Yes.
Is it,
Sorry, shouldn't have said that.
Because we jokingly said perhaps Wonky Jumps could sponsor us. He said, "Why would they sponsor us? They're getting free publicity out of it anyway." Brentford cited two reasons: one, cost to fans, and two, sustainability, which is interesting to see a Premier League club taking that seriously. We were hoping to be talking to Dale Vince today, the owner of Forest Green Rovers, the greenest club in the world. Unfortunately, he's unable to talk to us. We'll be talking to him in a week or so. But it's good that a Premier League team are talking about sustainability.
Yes, it is. The launch of football kits has become a thing these days. It is, and the commercial departments which are driving these, they will have the big social media campaigns. If you take a look at a club such as Manchester United, they generate around about £80 million a year from merchandise sales. If you take a look at Celtic and Rangers, they're Celtic, I think, are close to 20 million. So it clearly is a significant impact in terms of the club's overall finances. But from a sustainability perspective, let's face it, the quality is never great of a football kit, but it does last far more than 20 washes. So why are they bringing them out every season? It is being driven by money. And we're also seeing clubs not just change the home kit each season, but they've now decided to change the two alternative kits as well. So there's a lot of effort going into generating extra revenue. And the manufacturers are making money out of it. The clubs are making money out of it. It's not great from a sustainability point of view. But Brentford have said, and fair play to them. And I met Billy the Bee from Brentford
Nice.
who's an absolutely brilliant guy.
Nice lad, isn't he?
Yeah, fantastic. And he says, he's just so proud of his club. And this is their first season in the Premier League. The club have said, we if we brought out a new kit next season, and I think some other clubs have said similar, we could make a bit more money, but compared to the money, it's actually less money than the difference between finishing 15th and 16th in the division. So we want to say to fans, as a thank you to you've been Brentford through thick and thin, the last thing we're going to try to do is to rinse you in another 6 to 8 months with a new home kit. So and fair play to them. It's a shame that other clubs don't take that same approach, because it was only 5 or 6 years ago that all the clubs in the Premier League would say, you buy this kit and you get 2 years worth of wear out of it. Because if you're parents and you've got you've got a couple of kids, the costs soon rack up for change. Because the kids want not just the home kit, and it's a very, very pricey affair.
Yeah, I think I don't know if I told this story out loud, Kieran, or whether I just showed it to you. But as you know, the Father Frank, the priest who took my dad's funeral, ended it by revealing beneath his cassock a palace shirt with a picture of the Virgin Mary on it. I can't explain the context; it will take too long. But it looked rather good. So I've been trying to persuade the commercial department at Sellers Park that there must be enough Catholic Palace fans for them to produce a range of Palace shirts with the Virgin Mary on it.
Yeah. You've been sponsored by Virgin before, haven't you?
I've pointed this out to them. Just get the old 1990 shirts out with Virgin on and just whack the word Mary underneath. I know a lot of people about. I know at least 30 people. 30 is probably not enough for a massive production run, but it's an idea. Now, Burnley's game against Spurs was called off at rather short notice through weather reasons, to be fair. But that a lot of Spurs fans are on the way, and it cost Spurs fans a lot of money. And while we're on the subject, Kieran, it can't be beyond the wit of man or the Premier League to not send Palace fans to Leeds at 8:15 on a Tuesday night, or Norwich fans to Newcastle. It's just they've got to work. We talked about this so many times, Kieran, and Tottenham fans having to get to Burnley for 2:00 is bad enough. I almost think it's about time we made the Premier League regional, Kieran. We'll let the North and the North, they can have their own league.
Or perhaps have some form of regulator who listens to the concerns of fans and takes this into consideration when decisions are being made with regards to matches and when they're played.
Of course, or who looks at the computer when it prints out the fixture list in June and just get a man or a woman or a 4-year-old child to look at it and go, well, that's not good, is it? Sending Brighton to Newcastle on a Tuesday night. Let's change that to Saturday at 3:00. And then telling the broadcasters to have a bit of concern for football fans. It's just, anyway, I mean, Tottenham fans must have been furious. I mean, I know it can't be helped because a snowstorm arrived almost out of nowhere. But I mean, they were there. Not only did it cost them their money for that game, but they've got to go again and pay again.
Yeah, so I mean, they'll be able to use the tickets for the second match, and I'm hoping that they will be given the option of a refund. And this is something we've discussed on more than one occasion. As football fans, we buy into the modern day football experience, but if kickoff times are being moved, the idea that we just click our fingers, grab our ankles, and say, "Okay, 3:00 on Saturday is now being changed to 7:45 on a Friday or a Monday night or Sunday lunchtime." We do have other things in our lives over the course of those, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And you might be going to a concert ticket. You might be going away. You might be doing something with your family. And it's becoming also, and I'm going to call out my club on this. It becomes they've made it increasingly difficult to transfer those tickets to somebody else. So we sign up in good faith. We are now expected to acquiesce to a football match taking place at any time over a 4-day period over the weekend. With no complaint, and if you can't make it, well, the club's already got your money. Tough. I'm firmly of the belief that if a match is moved from 3:00 on the Saturday to another kickoff time, I would do my damnedest to still go and see that match because I love my club and it's part of my the culture that we all we all have as football fans, but. You should be given, let's say, 14 days once the kickoff times have been changed to say to the club, can't make it, put my ticket up for redistribution, and if they can't resell it, then you get a refund. And I don't think that's an unreasonable expectation. The other issue, I went on to the National Rail website, and what we have seen. And this is not a party political comment yet. What we have seen recently is that the rail companies have significantly reduced the number of advance tickets that are available. So, again, when matches used to come out, the advance tickets go on sale 16 weeks in advance. But of course, I can't book a ticket for a match in February. Because I don't know when the kickoff's going to take place. So therefore I have to wait until Sky and BT and the Premier League deign to let me know. And of course, by then, because there's so many fewer advance tickets, you can't get them. And if you want to go from Burnley to Spurs, it's £101 on the trains. Now, again, sustainability, that's absolutely ludicrous. Because what will happen is you'll get 4 blokes say, well, let's just go and take a car. It works out a lot cheaper. And it's absolutely dumb. And I do think, again, either the Premier League should say, we're in talks with rail companies to try to take this into consideration, or the rail companies themselves ought to stop being as sneaky as they are being, because I'm a regular rail traveller trying to get up and down the country as a football fan, and that's my preferred mode of transport because it is cheaper. Well, no, it's not cheaper. It's become more expensive. But from a sustainability, from an environmental point of view, and also from an enjoyment point of view, you're sitting around with 3 or 4 of your mates, you're having a giggle. You can have a few drinks if that's what you want to do, and it's safer as well. All of that is thrown out of the window because everybody's trying to rinse football fans.
Or, of course, you could do what we often do, is get a train very early in the morning, which tends to be cheaper. But then, of course, you spend more money on beer because you get somewhere 3 hours before kickoff. But I felt for Villa fans on Saturday because Southern Railway, for about the 3rd time this year, decided to do engineering work. So there were no trains at all from Victoria to Thornton Heath or Selhurst, which are the stations for Crystal Palace.
Yeah.
So it becomes almost impossible for Villa fans a lot of them won't know their way around London. So instead of just getting a train down to Euston, a couple of tube stops to Victoria and a 20-minute train ride, their only option was to get to London Bridge, which if you don't know London, they're going to be confused about. Otherwise, they can't. They're going to have to leave an extra 2 hours to get from Birmingham to London. It can't be beyond the width of Southern Railway to check whether there's a home game at Crystal Palace. 5,000 of the Palace fans will use that route to get there. And the thing about redistributing, you should be able to redistribute your own ticket. If the kick-off time is changed and you can't get there, you should have the right to say, anyone, you just go on the WhatsApp group, anyone need a ticket? Anyone got a mate who needs a ticket? This nonsense that you have to go to the club and give your ticket back to the club for them to redistribute it. We're getting very angry today, Kieran, aren't we? Must be.
Soapbox.
Yeah. The bad one, we've been talking about Tranmere Rovers a lot recently and how good they are as a club. But this is some bad news for them. Part of the main stand roof blew off because of Storm Arwen at Prenton Park, and it's one of those stories, Kieran. It's almost comical when you hear it. But I remember back in the day, famously, the roof at Stoke blew off the stand, and they had to use money they'd put aside for transfers to rebuild the stand, and it eventually led to them getting relegated. So it's nothing comical about this story at all, is there?
No. I mean, to be fair, I'm sure Mark and Nicola and the rest of the team at Tranmere, that they've got insurance, so that will be covered. But there still will have been significant costs for them because the stewards will have started a shift. They will have. The programs. I appreciate program sales are pretty minuscule these days. That's going to be a bit of a problem. Knowing Tranmere, they will have bought their catering in advance, but they will have redistributed it to good causes. So some people will have benefited, but it is the precarious nature of modern day football, and these things can still happen. It was a pretty stormy storm, and I just hope everybody is safe there because they're one of the good guys in football.
They are. It must have been terrifying as well. Always, it's one of my dad's sayings: you can't beat the weather, which is probably true. And he also said you can't beat the sea, which is not true. I'd just come back from Hong Kong, which is basically built by keeping the sea back quite a long way. But once he had an idea in his head, like I say, the goalkeeper's gloves, the sea, the weather. So yeah, good luck to Tranmere, and I hope any people who were around when it happened are over their shock. And this next story is no shock. And the amazing shock about this next story, Kieran, is it hasn't happened years ago. Italian financial crime authorities have opened an investigation into Juventus's transfer profits.
Yeah, I find this so strange because Andrea Agnelli, the man who tried to save football and is still trying to save football by concentrating money in the game in the hands of just a few clubs. He's the owner of Juventus. And it's not just Juventus; it is some other Italian football clubs as well. But the reason why the focus has been on Juventus is that Juventus's shares are traded on the stock exchange and therefore are subject to a higher degree of regulation and scrutiny than those of other clubs. Funny, isn't it?
You can't. It's impossible to tune in halfway through a podcast, isn't it? It's possible to tune out halfway through a podcast, as we discovered. I just thinking anybody tuning in halfway through would wonder why I was laughing so much at you saying it's the Italian Stock Exchange is regulated. Oh, okay, that's hilarious. I must have missed something.
So this is linked to 282 million euros worth of deals for players like Arthur, Cancelo, Osimhen, and some of these deals involve player swaps. And the problem that we have here is, first of all, how much is a player worth? Well, the thing is, there isn't a right answer. So therefore, it comes down to the negotiation between two clubs. And also, here we've got a problem caused by the accountants. When you sell a footballer, 100% of that profit is booked immediately. But when you buy a player, the cost, as we know from your favourite word, amortisation, the cost is spread over the life of the contract. So you put those two factors together. If I want to boost my profits in the short term, what I'll do is I've got a player worth 10 million. You've got a player worth 10 million. We phone each other up and say, let's do a quick swap. And we will put that deal through as £50 million sale price for both clubs. So we've got a huge profit on the deal. Yes, it's going to cost us some more amortization, but that amortization is not going to come through and fully for the next 4 or 5 years. So on a short term, you get the same as a caffeine boost. You get that immediate hit, that immediate high as far as your profits are concerned. And some people say that this is what Derby County were doing to at a much greater extreme. But that person would have to be a cynic, and as we've established, I'm not a cynic. And therefore, what's happened now is that the financial police that are connected to the Italian Stock Exchange have looked at some of these deals, and their job is to protect shareholders. Just like for example, an independent regulator in football would be there to protect football fans. And that's why this has taken place. There's talks of wiretaps. It's all getting quite. I think there's a movie to be made here on the back of it. But when it comes to footballers and profits and manipulation, and again, I'm not blowing my own trumpet. This was in my things to worry about red flag section of my book. And all of this is known about in the world of finance. But it's trying to get it across to a broader audience to say, if something looks too good to be true, it normally is not true, and that's why we need to have some form of care and due care and attention to the way that football clubs are conducting themselves.
What are the potential outcomes here, Kieran, if the Italian financial crime authorities do uncover wrongdoing or misaccountancy? Are we talking about prison here? Are we talking about fines? Are we talking about slaps on the wrist? Do we know?
Well, it's most likely that the club could be prosecuted, but also individuals within the club could be prosecuted, and the most likely person is going to be the financial controller, the qualified finance person, accounting person. If our experience of the FCA, the Financial Conduct Authority in the UK here, is anything to go by, it will end up as a slap on the wrist, because things either get watered down or the club and its employees will get the backing of some very, very skillful lawyers who will get them off. The lack of success of the FCA in preventing financial crime in this country is a big cause for concern, but that's for a different podcast. That's for a different subject.
I've got enough on my plate, Kieran, without adding that to my list of concerns. If you don't mind, I'll leave that one to you for the moment, if that's all right. Bayern Munich's recent annual general meeting descended into chaos. It says here, chaos, Kieran.
Yes, if anybody's seen I think this is probably up on YouTube. It's certainly been tweeted around. Bayern Munich have an ongoing sponsorship deal with Qatar Airways. And German fans tend to be more organised than fans in the UK. They tend to be more militant. They tend to be more political. And they have not been happy about this deal, which I think was initially signed in 2016, since it initially took place in respect of their concerns about human rights. Now, is an airline involved in human rights abuses? No. So, the club will say, we've got a deal with a private company that gives us money. We give them publicity. As far as we're concerned, the airline is not is not connected to any of these allegations. The fans say you judge a man by the quality of his friends, and therefore we don't want to be associated with effectively, which is a state-owned airline, and therefore we want you to cancel the sponsorship arrangement. And one of the great things about German football, as we've already established, is that individual fans can be shareholders. They've got the 50+1 rule, and there was a lot of people attending the AGM, and then they just booed And it wasn't like Brighton fans at home to Leeds. It wasn't just a few. It was some pretty universal booing, and they gave the board, who were trying to justify this, they gave them absolutely pelters, and effectively it did descend into chaos and farce, and lots of very, very angry people. So fan representation, the fan's voice held at board level, one of the recommendations of the independent report by Tracy Crouch and her team. But that's that to me is descending into Maoism.
It's
or not. Actually, I shouldn't have said that, because that's making.
No, you said it. It was, given the context of those comments, Kieran, I think that's a perfectly justifiable use then, because you are ironically referring back to something that was said before. So your comment was based on the comment by the Leeds exec. It's a strange one from Bayern Munich, Kieran, because they are, without any doubt, one of the biggest, most successful clubs in the world. And you would imagine there would be many, many giant companies queuing up to sponsor them. So the sensible thing would seem to be to say, well, okay, we've listened to the fans. Possibly we shouldn't have got into this relationship in the first place. We'll pay whatever it takes to get out of this, and then we'll just make the next sponsorship a bit more expensive to cover that loss, wouldn't you?
Yep. And I'm sure, I'd say Bayern, iconic club. You and I both remember them winning the European Cup in the 70s when they were magnificent team. Yeah. And that they are, financially superbly run, and clearly they're very successful in the Bundesliga on the back of that, and they're partially owned by Adidas and Volkswagen and so on. They've got big shareholders, or big minority shareholders from the corporate world in Germany as well.
A Cambodian Prince's attempt to buy French club Saint Etienne has turned into a bit of a farce.
Yes, this is Novodin Ravicak, who I think is the nephew of the Cambodian leader, and he tried to buy Saint Etienne. He claimed to have put down a €100 million deposit as a sign of good faith a couple of months ago, and it then turned out that this could have been a forged piece of paper. It's a bit like those checks that producer Guy sometimes send us, which are written in invisible ink, and therefore, forgery. Now accusations of fraud. There's a Singapore company which he was basing, in which he was using as a vehicle to acquire Saint Etienne. That company appeared to be sort of manned by two men and a dog, and has subsequently disappeared. So, very, very farcical. And I think for those fans of Saint Etienne who were hoping that he was going to turn into a sugar daddy, because let's be face it, we're all hypocrites as football fans. We say, we want a sustainable club. We want the club to go forward in an organic way and in a measured way. No, we don't. We want somebody to come in and spaff £500 million on a new centre forward and a couple of decent midfield players. So those Saint Etienne fans that have got their hopes up, I think those hopes are going to be dashed. But it does show that football. It is very much like a flame to the moths of wrong-uns, in the sense that they are attracted to the game because of the glamour, because of the kudos. And sadly, it's not just this country in which these things happen.
We are hypocrites, Kieran, because not only do we want a sugar daddy or a sugar mummy or a sugar person to come in and spaff, as you say, £500 million to get us into the Champions League, we complain when it happens to another club.
Oh, yeah. That's petty jealousy. Yes.
Exactly. We don't want Newcastle getting it. We want it, basically. It's a shame, Kieran, I think, that our younger listeners will be Googling the word check now, wondering what's he talking about, writing the check. And invisible ink as well. That's going to come as a shock to some of our young ink. First of all, you've got to explain what ink is to them, and then you've got to explain what invisible ink is to them. It's It's a pleasing. Invisible ink just makes me laugh. It's a pleasing carry on spying type thing, isn't it? We've done it in invisible ink. And finally, Kieran, yet another small victory for you and your fellow colourblind fans this week.
Yeah, well, we've already mentioned Rochdale once, but what I'd also like to do is to give a big shout out to their opponents in the match this weekend. Plymouth. Rochdale play in blue. Plymouth play famously in green. Fantastic kit and sponsored by Ginsters. And they've become aware. We've got friends at Plymouth, and they've become aware through Catherine Albany Ward, who we've had on the show, and also some high profile colourblind fans who moan about it quite a bit on social media, that there were problems. And Brighton's match against Leeds on Saturday was sadly yet another example. We played in blue and white stripes, but we've got an all blue back to the shirts, blue shorts. Leeds decided to play in lavender. Now, I don't know what lavender is. To me, it just looked blue. And even the Baroness couldn't, she said, yes, I can tell them apart, but it's not easy. And this is the crazy thing about colour blindness. We've got football clubs who are spending millions of pounds recruiting players, millions of pounds making sure that the pitches in their training grounds are exactly the same dimensions as the first team pitch. They are getting specialist coaches for throw-ins, specialist coaches for goalkeepers when they're passing the ball to the back four. And yet the one thing they don't give a hoot about is their players being able to identify teammates, something which will cost you next to nothing to deal with. And it is a genuine problem. And 8% of males are colourblind. That means in any one football match, you've got probably 2 players, potentially 3 players in the 30, in the 38, 36 man squad of both clubs who are going to be colourblind. Can you identify your teammates? Yes, you can. Can you do it instantly? Can you do it as quickly as if you've got one club in red and one club in white? Possibly not. And it can be ending up costing the clubs money because they've not thought this through. So it's crazy. But Plymouth have agreed to play in white against Rochdale. They put this out as part of their colour blindness commitment. And again, hat once again doffed for 2 clubs who are just doing a little bit, which makes a big difference to football fans.
And it's a little bit that doesn't take a lot of doing. That's the thing. No. Yeah. It's a very simple thing to do. And although as the worrying thing about that, as Catherine pointed out, and she was a wonderful guest, and it really was eye-opening for me, who's not colourblind and therefore can't take it as seriously as I should, unfortunately. But as she pointed out, the chances are that the colourblind players haven't revealed that anyway, because they've kept that to themselves because they're worried it might impact their career, as it inevitably probably would do. It's going to be, a lot of clubs would say we don't want a player who's colourblind, so they keep it to themselves. And that's why she pointed out that there's some, she wouldn't name names, quite rightly so, but there's some high-profile transfers recently where the player simply hasn't done as well as expected at his new club, and it's because the kit clashes, basically. So it's a serious issue, but well done, Plymouth. And again, it's one of those clubs you would expect nothing less from. And well done, Rochdale, as well, because it's such a simple thing to do. And also explaining to the rest of us why you're doing it as well adds a little bit more to our knowledge. I'm going right back to the very first story about why you should know about history. The more you tell other fans about colour blindness, the more they go, oh, okay, we'll keep that in mind when we're wondering why a mate of ours is racing for a red light, as you sometimes do.
Yes, I do. I mean, I cannot tell red traffic lights from orange and yellow street lights. So sometimes if I'm on a long road and there are traffic lights, I won't see them.
Yes, one of the very many reasons I won't get in a car with you, Kieran. Although the soundtrack, the music's always good.
Yes, it is.
If you would like to make a small monthly contribution to our always free-to-air pod, then please go to patreon.com/priceoffootball. And if you have a question you'd like answered on the show, on our Monday pod, email us at questions@priceoffootball.com. And in the meantime, I shall hand you over to Kieran Maguire for his customary farewell, but not before I wish you good luck on your journey to London today, Kieran, and your game against West Ham tonight.
That's very kind of you.
Very gracious
from a
of you,
Crystal
isn't it?
Palace fan.
Yeah, from a Crystal Palace fan who's still really, really sulky and angry about last night.
Well, my neighbour Grant, who is a Palace fan, he went there last night, and he's completely dedicated. He hasn't missed a match for 7 years, home or away. He's pretty choked today, understandably so.
But he lives in Sussex as well. That's he goes to every home and away game, but that's brilliant. But he lives in Sussex. Oh, really? Okay. It doesn't. One of he's still in credit, Kieran. He's still just in credit. I'm sure he's a lovely fella, but living in Sussex deliberately as well, voluntarily.
Well, thanks again for all your feedback, folks. If you want to give us some good karma. And free karma as well. All you have to do is to go onto the Apple app, hit that purple icon, and if you give us a little review, ideally with 5 stars, that does help. Yeah, we've been getting a bit of criticism from some of our American listeners recently that we're trying too hard to be funny. But we're just two blokes. This is the way blokes talk in the UK. We cannot take ourselves too seriously. And Kevin is a professional comedian. That's why it's a funny show.
It's my job.
Exactly. But if you can give us a review, doesn't matter what you say. It just helps drive us up the charts and helps us in terms of negotiating to get as many guests on the show, and we wish Dale Vince at FGR. Hope he is in a good state, and we look forward to having a chat to him soon as well. Cheerio.
Bye-bye, everybody. I'll tell you what, let's do, Kieran. We'll do a special pod just for the Americans, which is just about football finance. We'll have no references to 70s TV, punk rock, dogs, wonky chomps, drunk wives, and I don't think I'd enjoy it as much.
I think it'll probably last about 15 minutes as well.
Yeah, it'd last about 2 weeks, Kieran, is all it would do. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
The price of football. The price of football.